taking over of Strait of Hormuz, how would Iran react?
When a country is attacked, there is this right for self-defense.
What visible and invisible preparations are being made for potential restart of full-scale hostilities?
Iranian troops are regrouping. They realize that Trump has not reached its goals. The Iranian military is ready to shoot back.
What is the actual ceiling of help from Beijing and Moscow?
Relationships during war times are a secret, so they're not going to be announced by Iran or China or Russia.
Known as now hidden Rehber. So when could we possibly see him?
Make sure the war ends and he's not hidden. He communicates to people, officials.
Saqlain Imam ka salam qabul kijiye. Salam from Saqlain Imam. I'm here to talk to Dr. Foad Izadi, an analyst who actually has earned a great repute in the world for defending Iran's case, and he has been consistently focusing on the cost-benefit calculations of the US and its regional allies during this war against Iran. Dr. Foad Izadi is a prominent associate professor of American Studies at University of Tehran, specializing in US foreign policy, Iran-US relations, and public diplomacy. An expert often featured in international media, he advocates a resistance perspective on regional conflict and, as of early 2026, strongly critiqued US and Israel policies towards Iran. So, Dr. Izadi, after introducing you, I straight come to my questions, especially with regard to the strategic survival and military contingencies for Iran. I mean, responses to Iran, energy sabotage, especially America and Israel have been targeting Iran's energy infrastructure. If critical infrastructure like Kharg Island were to be targeted, or if it is to be taken, such as the places of Strait of Hormuz faced further disruption, what is the calibrated response from the IRGC or the Iranian military? Is the total blockade of the strait will be the ultimate deterrent, or there could be, if American forces, their troops land on Iranian soil, what would be the strongest reaction of IRGC?
This war was imposed on Iran. Iran, before the start of the war, was negotiating with the other side. Iran was hoping to reach a diplomatic solution. A diplomatic solution was available, according to the Omani foreign minister, who was mediating at that time. He had this interview with CBS News right before the war, and he said that there was a diplomatic solution available in 24 hours. And then Trump decided to attack Iran shortly after that.
That's known to everybody, that Iran was attacked when it was already engaged in diplomacy and it was having negotiations with American teams in Geneva and in Muscat. But at the moment when America has failed to achieve its strategic objectives of regime change and degradation of our Iranian military capacity, and of course taking away its nuclear program and enriched uranium. Now, if they go for taking over Kharg or taking over of Strait of Hormuz, how would Iran react?
So the first thing we need to establish is that this is an illegal war on Iran. And under Article 51 of the UN Charter, when a country is attacked, there is this right for self-defense. Mm-hmm. So the country that is attacked can and should respond to countries that have attacked it and countries that have helped this illegal attack. And United States could not do this level of damage to Iran without the help of some of Iran's neighbors. They provided bases to the United States.
You mean the Gulf states, GCC members?
Exactly, Persian Gulf states. According to the U.S. Secretary of War, they fought, I'm quoting, shoulder to shoulder with the Americans against Iran. So what Iran did after the start of the war, Iran started to responding under Article 51 of the UN Charter, hitting U.S. bases that were located in these countries. And Iran tried to have measured response when the United States started attacking non-military sites in Iran. So on the first day, they attacked a primary girls' school. Iran lost 165 little girls. Iran did not attack any schools in the neighboring countries. When they attacked Iranian banks, Iran responded with attacking American banks. So Iran's response when they attacked petrochemical sites, Iran responded by attacking U.S. U.S. has a lot of investment in different petrochemical sites in this region. So those sites with investment from the United States, some of them are owned by the United States, were attacked. And if they attack the Kharg island or they attack other sites, this is what Iran will do. Iran will have a
Strait of Hormuz.
Yes, it's very difficult for them to attack a Strait of Hormuz, because if they get near, their ships will be hit by Iranian missiles. That's why they're staying away, many hundreds of miles away from the Strait of Hormuz, because they know what will happen to them if they get close. But Iran's policy has been to do to the other side what they have done to Iran. It's called an eye for an eye. It's in Bible. They understand when it says an eye for an eye. They understand what Iran means.
Dr. Izadi, I mean, the things you have explained is now known to many parts of the world, and many people are convinced, yes, Iran was attacked and America did aggression against Iran. But at the moment, the Strait of Hormuz is blocked by Iran, controlled, and United States has put its own naval blockade around it. So if given the US naval pressure, what is Iran's actual capacity to maintain oil operations and exports? You have mentioned, the 6,000 kilometer land border advantage Iran has got. How much can land-based trade offset a maritime blockade?
It's not going to be easy. And, what Iran has done under, again, this is Convention on Law of Seas. Iran is a coastal state to the Strait of Hormuz. Under Article 17, yes, ships can go through these straits, but it should be innocent passage. The word is innocent. And in Article 19 of the Convention on Law of Seas, it defines what innocent is. One of the criteria of...
And of course, Iran is not signatory to that agreement.
Iran is not a signatory, but if you consider that to be the standard law, under that law, Iran can regulate the passage of ships that go to the Strait of Hormuz, because in Article 19, it says, defines what innocent passage is. Innocent passage means that you should not threaten the security of the coastal state. When you attack a country, kill more than 3,500 civilians, you're threatening the security of that state. So if Iran was a party to that convention, under that convention, Iran had the right to respond.
Regulate.
Iran is not a party to that convention. So Iran, under Article 51 of the UN Charter, can do that. And there are no restrictions in regulating. So the Strait of Hormuz is closed to Iran's enemies, countries that help the United States and Israel. It's close to the United States and Israel. But in the last couple of months, we have had ships from Pakistan, India, France, many different countries passing through. It's under the Iranian control. The Strait of Hormuz is in territorial waters of Iran and Oman. Based on the convention, the territorial waters are defined to be 12 miles, and the Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles altogether. So it falls between territorial waters of Iran and Oman.
But my point is still the same. that it is under the control of Iran and some traffic is passing through Strait of Hormuz. But United States has blockaded the Strait of Hormuz outside this area and stopping Iran's ships and oil tankers. So how would Iran maintain its operational capacity? Because it is claimed by Donald Trump that Iran is in a very bad situation. It is collapsing because its oil production is going to come to halt, and that would cause its irreparable damage.
It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. Iran is facing two nuclear regimes. Iran is a non-nuclear state. They have, U.S. spends 100 times more on its military in comparison to Iran. So the fact that Iran has survived these extensive attacks, U.S. brought everything that the U.S. had against Iran. And not only Iran was able to do that, the other side asked for a ceasefire. So this is amazing to start with. It's not going to be easy. This blockade is an act of war under international law. And it came after the first round of talks in Islamabad. So it shows they are violating ceasefire because they're engaging in acts of war. Iran sooner or later will find remedies to make sure that this illegal blockade is addressed. Iran is exercising patience right now. This could lead to the next round of military confrontation.
Okay. The
idea that you can sabotage Iran's economy is not a good idea. I think the effect on U.S. economy is going to create more pain because Iran is fighting for Iran. Iran is fighting for this region. Iran is fighting for the civilized world. The other side, American soldiers are fighting for Israel and Epstein class. So Iran can sustain this longer.
So Dr. Izadi, my question is, while a delicate ceasefire exists, I mean, so far there's a delicate ceasefire, America is violating, but still there's a ceasefire. What visible and invisible preparations are being made for potential restart of full-scale hostilities?
Iranian troops are regrouping. They realize that Trump has not reached its goals. Trump said that he wants to take over Iranian oil. In the interview that he had with Financial Times, I think in London you have access to Financial Times. The next day after that interview, a reporter asked Trump, why do you want to take over Iran's oil? He says that he's a businessman and he wants to make money. Businessmen are not supposed to be robbing other people's resources. That doesn't qualify as a businessman. That's a robber. That's a thief. That's a person that engages in war crimes. So what Iran will do is that Iran will make sure that attacking Iran has significant cost to the other side. It has demonstrated that. The Iranian military is ready to shoot back if the other side decides to attack Iran.
And there are allegations or the claims by the Western media that Iran's military capacity is degraded, its missiles numbers are less, its production facilities are destroyed. Is it true?
This is the mistake they had. It is true that Iran is weaker in comparison to 2 or 3 years ago, but that doesn't mean Iran is weak. Iran's military capacity is quite extensive. Many of these factories are underground, much more difficult to hit. And this is the image that Trump had. Trump said, these are not my analysis, this is what he said. He said that he thought that the war would be over in 3 days. It wasn't over in 3 days. These are the miscalculations that the other side had. And they can try attacking Iran again. We don't encourage it, but if they do that, they realize that Iran's capacity to fight back is going to be available for many, many months to come.
Dr. Izadi, you often call negotiations, I've heard some interviews where you have said that these negotiations are deceptive operations. In this current ceasefire, is Washington genuinely pivoting towards peace, or are they simply reloading for a more opportune moment to strike?
This terminology, deception operation, appeared in the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal when they were covering the negotiations that the U.S. had with Iran last June and in March, in February this year. So this is their analysis, which is accurate. When you negotiate, you are supposed to negotiate in good faith under international law. Trying to pose as negotiating and then preparing for war is deception operation. So Iran is very watchful to make sure that the other side does not engage in this type of deception operations again. That's why Iranian leaders are not very hopeful about the negotiations that are going on, because the United States has demonstrated that at least up to now, they're not really interested in a permanent peace in this part of the world.
So you have suggested that, in your interviews, that U.S. regional personnel are legitimate target if Iran is attacked, and they have attacked. So at what point does the cost for the U.S. become high enough for them to abandon the maximum pressure doctrine?
It hasn't been high enough, it seems. So the number of U.S. soldiers, not high enough, it seems. The damage to U.S. economy is not high enough. What Iran plans to do, I believe, is that they need to increase that price. This is not what Iranians wanted. Iranians wanted to have a diplomatic settlement. But now that the war has started, Iran has no choice but to create cost to the other side. And this is what Iran has done. This is what Iran will do. The hope is that Trump realizes that this is a failed policy. He has this capacity to declare victory when he's failing. So he would declare victory, and then maybe he will go and take over, Greenland or Canada, or do other mischiefs.
If I ask you, before war, before, let's suppose, 28th of February 2026, Iran was trying to negotiate a settlement in which Iran was very much submissive and agreeing to US pressure, accepting many conditions on its nuclear program. And now Iran is a different Iran after the war, when it has survived US and Israeli attacks. What's the major difference, do you feel? How would you describe pre-war Iran and post-war Iran?
Iran was not submissive. Iran was trying to accommodate the other side. And the other side, instead of choosing peace and diplomacy, decided to attack Iran. The people who were exercising restraint in Iran are no longer with us. The leadership in Iran today realizes that the United States understands the language of force, and they're going to use force to make sure that the country survives this rampage by the Epstein class.
Foreign Minister Arakchi recently returned from Moscow. And of course, during that visit, he went to Pakistan 3 times. First time Pakistan, then Muscat, then Pakistan, then Moscow, then Pakistan. Based on your insight, what this visit has achieved?
These are the countries that you named are Iran's neighbors. They have been helpful. Pakistan has been helpful in this round of negotiations. Oman was helpful in the previous round of negotiations. Iran's link to Russia, military links, political links, economic links are extensive. Now that we have the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's access to the Caspian Sea is important as a route to replace some of the cargo that was coming through the Strait of Hormuz. On the other side of the Caspian Sea is Russia. The distance between between Caspian Sea and Black Sea is not that much. So we have access to Black Sea through roads that pass through Russia. So overall, the country's leaders in Iran are trying to make sure that Iran can survive this blockade by looking at alternative routes. Increasing cooperation with neighboring countries is going to be one way to make sure that the country survives.
Dr. Izadi, your major buyer of Iranian oil is China, and now there seems to be disruption in supplying Iranian oil to China. And Iran has started supplying oil to China via trains. Is it working well? Is it a good alternative?
It's not a good alternative. It's more difficult to do that, but Iran can send some oil through trains, and sooner or later this blockade will come to an end. Either the US realizes that they shouldn't have blockaded Iranian ports, or there could be a military confrontation to make sure these ports are free. And one thing I can tell you is that the US is not going to be able to suffocate Iran. This is the plan they have, because Iran's capacity to increase damage to the other side is quite extensive.
Could you please give me some idea? Because many people have been asking, or they're trying to know, how much China and Russia helped Iran during this war, because we did not see any physical evidence of their help. So what is the actual ceiling of help from Beijing and Moscow if a full-scale war breaks out? Or do you expect them to provide active defense support for remain as a friendly neutrals?
Some of these relationships during war times are a secret, so they're not going to be announced by Iran or China or Russia. What both China and Russia realize is that if the US is able to increase its hegemony in this part of the world, US will use this hegemony to put pressure on Russia and China. This is what Lindsey Graham, the American senator, said some weeks ago, that when they take over Iran, they will use Iranian oil to have leverage against China. Chinese leaders understand that. Iran is the main access that Russia has to global south. Turkey is another alternative, but Turkey is a NATO member, and if the Americans are able to achieve their goals with regard to Iran, that territory, Iranian territory, will be used to put pressure on Russia from its southern borders, the same way Ukraine is used to put pressure on Russia on its western borders. And Russian officials understand that. So this is a win-win situation. It's beneficial to Iran, and it's also beneficial to China and Russia to make sure that Trump fails the same way he has failed so far.
You just said that Pakistan has been helpful for Iran in negotiations. Is there a risk that US influence over Pakistan could turn them into a liability for Iran?
US has a lot of influence in Pakistan. The hope that Iranians have is that when the Pakistanis engage in mediation, that influence is set aside, because if you're a mediator, you're not supposed to be on the side of either parties. You should act independently. So the hope is that the Pakistanis realize that, and I think Iran is thankful for Pakistani involvement. They didn't need to do this, so this is something good that Pakistan is doing, and people know that US has a lot of influence in Pakistan. The hope is that Pakistanis realize that it's not good for Pakistan for the US and Israel to be able to take over Iran, because Muslim countries, large Muslim countries like Turkey and Pakistan, will be next if Americans and Israelis are able to increase their hegemony in this part of the world.
Well, Iran's geography and Iran's historic role is very significant in this whole Eurasian, bloc. Not only one bloc, Muslim or other, it's China, Russia, and whole Asia is linked to Iran one way or the other. So in this situation, how much can you actually see the changing world order from unipolar world to the multipolar world if Iran wins this battle, this war?
This is the idea that Trump had, because we are moving towards a multipolar world because the US is a country in decline. Trump thought by taking over Iran, taking over Middle East completely, he can reverse this decline trend that has started for some years. He's not only not doing that, he's actually increasing the speed of American decline by engaging in this type of reckless policies. So we are moving towards a multipolar world, and Trump is helping this move towards a multipolar world, because Trump is actually weakening the United States by engaging in this type of illegitimate policies.
Dr. Foad Izadi, how do you evaluate individual GCC countries right now, who is acting as a genuine bridge like Oman or Qatar, and who is still viewed as a potential launchpad for Western aggression against Iran?
Countries like Oman have been helpful. So they're not all the same. UAE, they established relations with Israel. They welcomed the Israeli president in the middle of genocide in Gaza. They have provided a lot of facilities to the United States. So UAE and Oman are very different countries when it comes to engaging in this type of anti-Iran.
Sorry, UAE in Oman or UAE or Qatar or Oman?
UAE and Oman are two different countries.
All right.
Qatar is somewhere in between. So you have different rulers. These are all monarchies. Most of them depend on the United States. These are client states of the United States. But the degree that they listen to U.S. demands and dictates is different. They are not all the same.
What do you see the future of military bases, U.S. military bases in the region, and Israel's huge influence over UAE?
The U.S. military bases have received a lot of damage. The UAE-Israel relationship, as I said, are quite extensive. There are some reports that Israel has moved some of these anti-missile systems to UAE during the last couple of weeks since the start of the ceasefire. We don't know. I don't know if that is true or not, but if it is, I think they will be Iran's next target. We have had a lot of Israeli companies functioning, working in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. They are legitimate targets for Iran when Iranian companies are hit. So overall, this is a huge mistake by UAE to associate themselves with Netanyahu, a person that's under indictment for war crimes in international courts. Not a good idea. Unfortunately, it seems UAE officials not realizing that.
Well, there's another, a question about UAE's yesterday's announcement of leaving OPEC. Do you think it has some bearing on this war or relationship with Iran or Saudi Arabia?
This is what they said. This is because of the war. This is one of the reasons they gave. They're leaving OPEC. They're an independent country. It's up to them whether they want to be part of OPEC or not. Iran is going to make sure that the UAE territory is not used against Iran, and Iran has demonstrated that. Iran will continue to demonstrate that if same things happen the same way that it happened during the war.
Dr. Izadi, how is the progress, apart from the regional relationship with the regional countries, how is the progress of negotiating bilateral agreements with Europe and Asia? And different countries, for instance, France, Germany, or some other countries, or Japan, or South Korea, they have come to Iran to settle their trade and oil supplies bilaterally. So, how do you see it's progressing? Is the reset of the world, the current situation, actually willing to risk? Are they willing to risk U.S. or U.S. secondary sanctions today?
We have a regime change in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is not going to back to doing business that Iran had previously, because we realized that the Strait of Hormuz was used by Iran's enemies to attack Iran, to cause harm for Iran. So these countries are welcome to reach agreements with Iran. At the end of the day, because Iran is going to collect tolls through the Strait of Hormuz, passing through the Strait of Hormuz is actually in line with Iran's interest, because if ships don't pass, they cannot pay tolls. So Iran has no problem working with these countries to make sure that their ships pass safely, and they're welcome to engage with Iran. In the 1990s, Germany was Iran's #1 trading partner. Iran used to do a lot of business with South Korea and Japan. It's been in the last few years that because of US pressure, they have decided to change their policy towards Iran. These are independent countries. They have to decide whether they want to listen to the United States or listen to their own interests. So we need to see whether it's Japan first or America first policy for Japan, South Korea first or America first. And I think most of these leaders realize that following their national interest is more important than listening and following Trump off the cliff.
Dr. Foad Izadi, just returning to Iran's internal situation, there's an immense speculation about Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei, the new rebel. Will we see him move into a more public official role soon? How does the Iranian public and the establishment view, him as a potential, he's known as now hidden rebel. So when could we possibly see him in public?
We need to make sure the war ends, and he's not hidden. He communicates to people, officials. There's daily communication. He has statements. You cannot elect a new leader every other day. So we need to make sure that, and Americans and Israelis have said that they want to kill him as well. So when you have war criminals on a rampage, you cannot act normally.
All right.
We are at war. We are not in a normal situation. Expecting someone who's a target by U.S. and Israel to act normally is not a good idea.
Western media reports, different, sometimes American leaders also claim that, and they suggest that there's a growing rift in Tehran's leadership regarding the level of compromise. Is there a genuine negotiations, faction versus resistance faction, or is the unity stronger than it appears?
Iran has a democracy and a population of over 90 million people. In a large country, there are going to be different voices, different opinions. People discuss these. When these things happen in Western countries, the other side calls that politics, they call that democracy. When it happens in Iran, they call it factional fighting. These are just terminologies that they use to create a frame on Iran. Iran is a normal country with normal people, with normal politics, with normal disagreements. And Iran has demonstrated that when Iran needs to be united, Iran has been united. You cannot fight against two nuclear regimes for 40 days without unity. With discord, you cannot do that. So these are foolish ideas presented by Western media, and you know better not to believe them.
Dr. Izadi, my last question. In the eyes of the Iranian people and the military, who is currently seen as a primary war leader or a strategist guiding the country through this delicate period of its history?
We had three main negotiators in Pakistan: Iran's parliament speaker.
I'm talking in terms of military leader who's leading the war.
Yeah, military leader. IRGC has a commander. His name is General Wahidi. We have the Joint Chief of Staff commanders. These are the people who are leading the war. We have political leaders. We have military leaders. Their names are available online.
Thank you, Dr. Izadi. I'm very grateful to you for spending some time. Thank you. I'll return to you again on some other moments.
Inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Khuda.